changing landscape of journalism. So we have with us three esteemed panelists. I'll start with a little bit of an introduction. The rapid integration of artificial intelligence into the media ecosystem has reshaped how news is being produced, distributed, and consumed. From algorithms which are used to generate headlines to AI assisted articles that have been coming up these days, the tools and timelines of journalism have undergone a significant transformation. In the era of AI and short span attentions with 24 by 7 news cycles and content overload that is currently seen on social media platforms, the roles of journalists have been changed significantly. Today's panel will explore how news organizations, whether it's a legacy newspaper or a digital first platform, are adapting to the rise of AI in their workplaces. With that, I welcome the first panelist for today, Ms. Itika Sharma, Deputy Editor, Rest of World. Itika Sharma is a Deputy Editor at Rest of World, overseeing the publication's coverage of Asia, Africa, and Middle East. She has been a journalist for nearly 2 decades, focusing on the business and technology sectors. Prior to joining Rest of World, she worked for Quartz and Business Standard. Welcome, Ms. Itika.
Thank you, Angela. Thank you.
Secondly, we have Mr. Vineet Bhalla, legal correspondent at scroll.in. Vineet Bhalla is a legal correspondent at the independent digital media outlet Scroll. He reports on the analysis and legal developments, newsworthy cases, landmark court judgments, legislative bills, and executive policies. He has written extensively on themes of judicial accountability and judicial independence. He also he also profiles the ordinary men and women behind legal stories in the news cycle. Vineet is also a qualified lawyer. He was part of the second cohort of Google's News Initiative Data Journalism Lab earlier this year. Welcome, Vineet. Thirdly, we have with us Mr. Binayak Dasgupta, editor, Hindustan Times. Binayak Dasgupta is an editor of Hindustan Times who oversees specialist reporting across technology, science, and policy domains. As part of editorial leadership managing daily news operation, he bridges complex technical developments and public understanding by working with reporters across beats and through his own reporting and commentary on emerging research and technologies. He also superheads the print newsroom's strategic AI integration, developing frameworks for responsible and efficient adoption. Welcome, Mr. Vinayak.
My pleasure.
Finally, I welcome the moderator for today's session, Mr. Suraj Singh Baghel, Communication Associate at SFLC.in. Suraj holds a master's in media governance from Jamia Millia Islamia and a bachelor's in journalism and mass communication from the University of Delhi. Prior to joining SFLC.in, he was the editorial assistant for a leading Hindi monthly magazine, Hans Mansik. His areas of interest are in the intersection of technology and society and its impacts on daily life. With that, I hand it over to you, Suraj.
Thank you, Angela, and good evening, everyone. Today, we are confronting one of the most pressing question Indian media is facing. How is the artificial intelligence reshaping journalism, and where are we heading with this? So, before preparing for this session, I gone through a lot of research that published last year and this year also recent the KPMG. So one of the research by Writer Institute says that 74% of newsroom believes that generative AI will help increase productivity, improve workflows without altering essence of journalism, while just 21% said that generative AI will transform workflow and processes, fundamentally changing every role in the newsroom. As per the latest KPMG report released recently, Trust, Attitude, and Use of Artificial Intelligence, a global study from 25. The report says 76% Indians are willing to trust AI. The report also says 73% Indians admits to making mistakes due to AI, and more importantly, 72% use AI against policies, indicating a steep learning curve in governance gap. Apart from it, another report by a writer institute released this year again, Journalism, Media, Technology Trends in Prediction 2025 says that 77% media publications are using the generative AI for the content creation, and followed by 73% of them are using it for news gathering functions in such as verification of data journalism and investigation. In the same study, 63 participants felt that newsrooms are being transformed somewhat, and 24% participants felt that newsrooms are being fully transformed due to generative AI. Today, our distinguished panel will delve into these multifaceted aspects of exploring AI careers footprints in Indian news. Ethical tightropes of we must navigate its influence on audience trust and evolving role of the journalist in this news as we through data. We aim to critical conversation how can ensure AI serves the core tenets of journalism, truth, accuracy, and public interest. Now I would open the discussion, inviting speakers to give their opening remarks on the topic. Itika, you can start.
Thank you, Suraj. Thank you to SFLC for inviting me here and for the introduction that you gave, Suraj. All of that data, not surprising as someone who is in the industry. So I think as we speak in May 2025, this is no more the time to sort of shy away or hide the fact that everyone, every professional in their own way is trying to engage with AI and trying to sort of derive benefits from it. Uh, I think that makes it even more essential for news organizations such as ours to take a step forward, embrace the new technology, and in fact, think of thoughtful and deliberate ways in which we can use artificial intelligence. Um, I think 3 years ago, if we were having this conversation, there was still a thought of sort of putting a blanket disapproval to nobody use AI for anything. This is not the moment for that. So at rest of world, in line with that, we are using AI very deliberately and thoughtfully, guided by our core principles of transparency, effectiveness, and learning. Um, we do not use AI to write our articles. That's the basic premise. We do not think we will be using AI to write our articles in the future either. Anything that we publish or we write, there are journalists that are ultimately responsible for it. We might be using certain AI tools on the back end to sort of, uh, maybe make things faster or research or explore new ways to do certain mundane processes. But at the end of the day, all of this is done with human oversight and review. And I feel like that is the most important focus that anyone in media at the moment should have, because I'm sure we'll go deeper into, like, the misuse, abuse, the biases, the fake news, the misinformation. But I feel like to combat that, the entire industry cannot shun away a new technology. We rather need to figure out ways to effectively use it and navigate those challenges.
I would like to invite Vineet for the his opening statement.
Thanks a lot, Suraj. Good evening to Binay, Kritika, and all the other viewers. Firstly, I'd like to extend my gratitude to the SLFC team for inviting me to this panel. It's an immense honor to share this panel with such experienced journalists as Itika and Binayak. I'm very much a student of the game that they're already veterans in. Since they also lead newsrooms, I look forward to learning from their insights in this session. So I work in a very small newsroom in which I've come to be known recently among my colleagues as a bit of an AI evangelist. This is because I underwent training earlier this year in using Google's AI tools as part of a 3-month data journalism program for journalists by the Google News Initiative. So having personally experienced the benefits of AI in my work in the last few months, I'm convinced that all journalists ought to deploy AI tools to work more efficiently. I don't think it'll ever replace journalists. I think it will, and perhaps it already has replaced to a large extent text content creators. However, there are certain core tasks of journalism, such as reporting, storytelling, and research that only humans can do. AI is, and Itik also mentioned, for other small menial tasks. I often equate it to an intern, one who can help you with your work, but you cannot rely on them for your entire job. So I'll hopefully get to elaborate on some of these themes over the next hour, and I look forward to the panel discussion.
Thank you, Vinit. Thank you, Ritika. I would like to invite Vinayak for his opening statement.
Yeah. Thank you, Suraj. And hi, Vineet and Itika, and everyone else. Thanks to SFLC for having us here. I like my fellow panelists have covered a fair bit of the domain and how we see it, and in terms of what AI can and can't do and should and shouldn't do. Just an important disclaimer that I want to put out here is that my views here are from my experience as a member of the Hindustan Times print newsroom. Digital is separate. So the way we are approaching it on the print side, at least, is some of the insights that we can share. And to start with, I just say, as much as I agree with almost everything that Itika and Vineet said, we are looking at a simple yardstick as of now when it comes to AI related tasks, which is one is it a knowledge based task or is it a language or an efficiency based task? So, for all knowledge based tasks, we have managed to, I mean, our rule is that we have ring fenced it. We would not rely on AI to do that. But for language related tasks, whether it's like creating summaries, or subbing, small paragraphs, proofreading, or transcribing interviews. Those are things that we are going a little ahead with. And of course, that doesn't mean that we don't want to do any knowledge related tasks, but that's just part of a small team that's focusing on what can be done and can't be done. And yeah, and I'd be happy to share deeper details into that.
Thank you, Vinayak. You all have already answered my first question, what kind of use is in the newsroom we are doing with the AI. But now we are going to the second important question. Now we are using AI in the newsroom. My second question is that the integration of AI is affecting any kind of editorial independence and human judgment in the newsroom. And are the human still the gatekeeping of the newsroom to verifying the sources and the data we are getting through the AI?
Absolutely. I'm happy to take the lead on this. So, I think Vineet, Binayak, and I'm so happy to hear that other newsrooms are also aligned with the way that we are functioning. I said right at the onset that human oversight and review is something that we are not compromising and we do not think can get compromised. You mentioned in your opening remarks, and I think Angela also did, about how there are articles that are written by AI that we find online. But I'm sure that anyone, even if they are not a news professional, can identify when there is a human behind that story and when it is just an AI generated lines and sentences and summaries of things that already exist. So how we are using AI, just to go a little deeper, like Binayak said, we are using AI for research work, we are using it for summaries of articles, sometimes for social language generation, sometimes for thinking about initial headlines. But as someone who's at the forefront of publishing stories on a daily basis, I can tell you with 100% certainty that a human oversight is needed. it is very rarely that any AI tool, and I have experimented with many. I myself took a fellowship at the London School of Economics in 2022, their journalism AI program, which is a 3-month extensive program. So I have used and experimented with several tools, but I can tell you with certainty that in 95% of the cases, if not more, human intervention is required. And there's no AI at the moment that can give you a headline that a journalist who's been around for decades would be happy about, or that a chat gpt or a Gemini can replace that kind of experience. uh, in terms of research also, like just yesterday, when the US president or the US government announced that they were halting student visas processes for a bit, I just wanted to sort of look at who are the entrepreneurs who came on immigrant visas to the US and went on to build billion-dollar industries, just as a research. And I was like, maybe there's something to write there, and I can, like, in 3 tools, the names that propped up were incorrect. Like, they had 2 correct, they had 5 incorrect. The generative, whatever, the model could not understand that I was asking for people who went on student visas, and just gave me a list of just immigrant entrepreneurs and such. So of course human intervention is very much needed. um, and I feel that is something that's going to continue and stay for a very long time. Like Vinayak said, there's an aspect of journalism that AI still can't do, which is when a protest is happening, you need a person standing there to draw a picture, to speak to people. You need a person, a human, to make a phone call to sources. You need a human to find the leads, to write those stories. Generative AI or any form of AI at this moment can only reproduce what already exists in that sense. I see Binayak is unmuted. Maybe he wants to go
Yeah,
next.
yeah, yeah. I'll just the thank you, Itika, for like elaborating on that. Just one quick small correction is that I think Vidit made the point about AI won't be able to replace reporters, which I wholly agree with. I think the human oversight question, going back to it, it stems from a fundamental reality with all these AI tools, is that one, it's trained on data that has existed, and it's trained in a manner that we have no visibility into. So yes, certainly, and as particularly as newsrooms, as editors for whom both credibility and accuracy matters a lot. I don't think we can. I mean, at least personally, this newsroom is not comfortable at all automating certain tasks via these models. Um, so, in fact, like even the training and the experimenting that we're doing as a newsroom on this is based on prompts that we are trying out, and we are looking at what sort of hallucination risk is happening, what sort of tweaks and prompts we can do to minimize those. And again, these are not knowledge tasks. We do not ask AI for information. We would rather, so for instance, if it is a science story, like today, one of the stories is this glacier that collapsed in Switzerland. So we would look at an explainer on what are the source, like we would look at an AI tool to help us point to sources that could give us glacier data, uh, glacier reduction data, or global warming data, that sort of thing. But those processes then have to be done separately. We prefer not to. I mean, at least the oversight into this is very hard, but I think we have a standing instruction across our teams is please do not use AI to write or create any articles. Yeah, and then just a specific set of prompts that we use for different levels of editing, mostly proofreading, at which it does a fairly decent job. So yeah.
Vinny, this is for you. I was reading this report by Writer Institute, and one of the participants was from Scroll for the report, said that they are integrating AI and working with the AI in the Scroll newsroom. I would not name, but how do you work along with AI within your newsroom? And specifically, you are a legal correspondent and there have been a lot of chatbots created for the legal journalism. So how you are cooperating with those new chatbots in your you as a journalist?
Thanks, Surat. So, uh, we are a very small newsroom, and as of now, we haven't, at an organizational or institutional level, come out with any policies for the use of AI. I think we must, and that is a conversation we are having at the level of the editorial leadership. Uh, in terms of my own work, as I said earlier, that and I think I'll keep reiterating this throughout, and this is also what Itika and Binayak have said, that AI will always supplement the work of a journalist. It will never substitute the work of a journalist. In term like so, if I think about what are the things I've used AI for over the last few months in terms of helping me out with my work. Uh, it's been for analyzing large amounts of textual or numerical data, generating or fine tuning story ideas, sometimes editing my writing, or even editing emails that I have to send out. And one thing which I find it very useful for is creating social media posts for the promotion of my stories, which will be put out by the Scroll social media handles, because I don't use social media at all, and I don't understand how to make these like posts which will attract eyeballs. Uh, I think to provide you just one use case, which provides a great illustration of how I've used AI for my work as a legal correspondent. In February, I had done a story on the Delhi riots larger conspiracy case, for which I had to analyze about 30,000 pages of charge sheets. Now, it's not possible to go through all those charge sheets by myself, right? So I had used an AI tool called Notebook LM, which is a Google tool for researchers, for helping me analyze and sift through all those documents. And of course, as Itika has mentioned, there was human oversight and oversight by me mostly, but also by in a review in terms of my conversations with lawyers in that case, to ensure that everything I'm writing is correct. And I also looked at those documents myself. So that I think, as a legal correspondent, I have to sometimes look through large sets of documents, be it charge sheets or be it judgments, be it FIRs. And I find, and sometimes these documents can be in languages that I may not be, I may not know, or I may not be fluent in. So in these tasks, I find AI tools really helpful.
I have a question for Vineet, if I could, Suraj.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, please, please.
Suraj, in terms of like this legal language reading, especially, I'm assuming that since you said Delhi rights, of course, these documentation is Indian legal documentation. How effective was this Google tool that you used in decoding that language, legal language of like the Indian legal system?
Thanks, Ritika. I think it was quite useful. So I think it depends on how well the judgment or the document itself is written. I remember, and of course, I'm sure we're all aware that sometimes judges have that unfortunate tendency of saying a lot, writing a lot without really making a point or saying anything. So I remember there was an order by a lower court in Delhi where the language in the judgment was not, it was quite ambiguous, and I realized that even the AI tool I was using, it wasn't able to fully grasp what the judge is saying. And this is where because of the fact that I'm a trained lawyer and I'm a legal journalist, I was able to understand what the what the import of the order was. But I think I've used AI tools for a lot of Hindi content, for example, Hindi government notifications and Hindi court orders, and I found it to do a fairly good job. Of course, as Binayak mentioned, you have to be very clear about in term, like you have to experiment with the prompts that you're using. You can't just uh, for example, put a document into a tool and say, give me what, like, tell me what it means. The more specific you are with your prompts, the more the more likely you are to get an answer that will be contextually useful to you.
Thank you. That's very interesting.
My same question is coming from as we are discussing riots. So, whenever India or any part of the India goes through such crisis, like there is a war situation going on and there is a riots happening, so a lot of AI generated content floats on the internet. So, on such situation, when we witnessed during this time that a lot of television media run a lot of AI generated content or the fake news, so, on an editorial basis, what are the safeguards we are taking? First question. Second, key, whenever we publish such content which is AI generated, not related to misinformation, but other. So, how we make sure that audience perceive, our audience know that this is AI generated content. It's their right as they are believing you as a media, as a fourth pillar of democracy. So these two questions are, I think we can start with Vinayak as he is leading Hindustan, which is as most biggest audience.
Yeah, so if we look at what happened during the recent conflict with Pakistan, that was one of the cases where AI generated content, and I'm not talking about AI generated news content. I'm talking about deep fakes. Um, that in that whole fog of war sort of situation, and there was a lot of misinformation on the internet from both sides. One of the examples that I really want to pick up here is that there's a video that went viral of the DGISPR apparently accepting that some of the Pakistani Air Force planes have been shot down. He flashed it for a bit. There were some known defense analysts who also tweeted it. Now in that case, the immediate reaction for us who are in the newsroom was that it doesn't make sense. We need to verify it before we run it. Because it simply did not make sense that in the middle of this, the DGISPR would make such a bombastic claim or such a claim that really undermines their position. So what I'm trying to say is that often there will be things that are counterintuitive from a journalistic perspective. And this is where uh, sort of first principles of your
Vinayak, your voice is breaking.
profession come
Sorry
into.
to interrupt. Your voice is breaking
Sorry,
continuously.
is there a way I can change the quality thing? Sorry, I think I've.
It is
Is
fine.
it any better?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
fine
Yeah.
now.
So, so essentially, the example that I was taking was about the deepfakes and deepfake about the DTISPR. In a making a claim that was very just like a little impact, like unbelievable. So the decision on how to treat it from a newsroom perspective comes from your own expertise of is this plausible? If it's not plausible, then what is the provenance of this information? Where did it originate? Unless you determine those things, and this holds true for any media, we would say. If someone passes on a letter to us, say it's a leaked letter, the first thing we would ask is what is the source? So this is from the perspective of when there's a conflict or there's a sensitive domain when something is happening. Um, as for the information we put out, again, I think if you're filtering uh, editorially what you're outputting, then hopefully this problem of AI putting out wrong information does not happen. And sorry, what was the second part of your question?
second part was that how we are making sure that the audience know if this whatever content we are generating for the media, if this was generated
Yeah, I
by it can be news, text, or video, any format.
no, yeah, I think absolutely this the disclaimer on whether what the where the content has originated, even if we are using visuals, illustrative visuals that are generated by say AI tools, whether it's Photoshop's autofill or whatever. It is important to mark those, label those, because then you start creating a culture of judging information where it's from. So if you start mixing it up, then that's a bad reflection on who you are or on your product or service.
Ritika, over to you for the same question.
For the same question, well, I think like Binayak answered it perfectly. There are certain nuances of any news, whether it's a breaking news or a disaster news or a riot or a conflict, that experience and human intelligence brings, that instinct brings. I think the example that he offered of like there was a piece of information that was flooding everywhere, but it instinctively did not feel right to people who might be experts on this topic. I think that has to be the guiding principle. And to your the second part of your question, again, like I opened with this, transparency is of utmost importance because um, we are, none of us are in the business of fooling our readers, right? Our purpose is to inform our readers. And I feel that to own the processes that we follow is the best way to move forward than to be in denial of any sort. Uh, I can tell you, I work with freelancers extensively, for example, right? And I have been working with freelancers for 12, 13 years. So I have looked at pitches after pitches from hundreds of writers from across the world. Um, and if we just focus on India, for example, like last or 2 years back when like Chat GPT was initially launched, uh, I could suddenly notice a difference in the pitches, right? Suddenly, reporters who struggled to sort of put together what they wanted to write were sending these beautifully embellished pitches in like language that made no sense but was very beautiful but had no substance because had no pre-reporting and such, right? um, and I think like at that moment, that was a moment where people were trying to hide what they're doing with AI. But I feel like it's the same for me with my audience, right? If I'm going to be using AI to do certain things and not be transparent about it, I don't think my reader is foolish. They will make out the difference, they will know. So to answer your question about like owning up what you're doing, like it's nothing criminal. It's uh, walking in pace with technology. Ours is a tech publication. We write about technology, so it only makes sense that we move with it. It only makes sense that we experiment with what we are reporting on.
So my next question is that now we are acknowledging that we are using AI in the newsrooms and journalists are using officially and unofficially. So is there any particular guideline or the policy created, documented policy, not like verbally, but documented policy we created? Okay, we can use certain AI tools and we have trained journalists on that. Okay, you can use this and we can use it certain limits and after that we cannot use. So is there any guideline created within the? I'll start with Vineet.
Thanks, Suraj. So, as I said, at Scroll, we are a very small organization and we haven't yet come out with such institutional policies. I do think it's important to have at least some policies in place regarding what you can and cannot use AI for. And as both Ritika and Vinayak have stressed, AI should not be used for knowledge-based tasks. In fact, if I were to come across any news story which said that it has been generated using AI, then at least in my eyes, that news organization, not just that story, but that entire news organization would greatly lose credibility. As Ithika mentioned, there should be transparency when you are using it for certain tasks. So, for example, if you're maybe creating videos or images using AI, then by all means mention that this has been generated using AI. And as I've said, that it in my own work, I found AI to be a very useful assistant. And I think this is something that all journalists should be doing. They should be taking assistance of AI tools for greater productivity. I'm not sure whether policies can be set at an organizational level for this. Maybe journalists in newsrooms can be trained on the use of different AI tools, but it should be then ultimately left to them on how they want to go about it.
Vineet, at Rest of World, we do have like a written internal policy on using AI. Of course, it is not regimental to say that you cannot do anything outside of this, more like a guidance to journalists, because we also have very young reporters on our team. Plus, our team is like globally split in different markets, different countries. So, we did earlier this year put together an internal guideline that came from our editor in chief. It lays out like the best practices, and it in fact opens by saying internal transparency and how it is an absolute must that we are going to share with each other. We are going to learn together. I think Binayak also mentioned about transcribing and such, right? So we have certain tools that our organization pays for our reporters to use, which includes an AI transcription kind of a software tool that our teams can use. We have also given our reporters and editors guidance on, it's actually, that is not a part of the guidance. Like, so we have we work on Slack, and we have a Slack group about that discusses like the AI experimentation. And from that, like, a lot of people have shared which tools they liked, which works. It's like an AI tips tool. So I do know certain tools that work better than the other among the free tools. So we use that, but we are also investing in training. Like I said, that I have already done a program. I know another colleague of mine from the product side has also done this program a year back. uh, and we're all learning together. Like we're doing experimentation around visuals, around creating visuals, around headlines and ideation and research and such.
Yeah, and sorry if I'll just jump in here. We don't have, I mean, apart from a stated policy that we're not going to use it for now, there is an internal document that's circulated among certain people. These are desk heads and bureau chiefs, on how to, and this is still, I want to stress on it, we are still sort of exploring the horizon because we still see a lot of safety risks. Even when we are asking it to specifically do a language task, there are instances when it hallucinates. So the policy that we have is based on what um, people are discovering, what prompts are not working, what prompts seem to be working really well in keeping an AI tool to its remit. And we are essentially updating that. And yeah, that's mostly where we are right now. We probably like take it to a next step when we have. And the only thing that I'd want to add is that we had been in touch with certain companies. We realized that the industry is moving a little too fast to be committing to a particular technology provider to develop a solution for us that's customized. So it's still a lot of flux. Almost every subsequent iteration seems to be hugely different from the other. So I think as we like progress down this road, we probably have stricter policies, stricter rules, and maybe more tailored services and products that we use internally.
Thank you, Vinayak. Vinayak, thank Vineet. Now we have talked about news production. Let's come to the dissemination. I mean, we have now. So AI have also changed the how we see the dissemination of news through their data and analysis. So looking at that, how newsrooms are using apart from production and news production to the disseminate the news across the platform, not just the print, but also online on YouTube and other different social media platforms. I think
You
we can
mean in
start with
terms of circulation?
yes, yes.
Okay, so at Rest of World, we all our teams, whether it's the audience team that looks at circulation on social media, whether it's the product team that works on the website and the back end of stuff, all of us are sort of in the process of right now exploring how AI can be used. So I think your question is outside of editorial, like besides editorial, what other teams are doing. Um, uh, each of our team is experimenting in certain ways. For example, our product team has been working on sort of inclusion. We have AI generated narration that we use for certain stories that was developed by our product team last year. It's been a really successful tool. We published a blog post about it just last month. A lot of readers from India going to that accessible ETG tool. In terms of our audience team, I know they have also been like, I do not have insights into which tools, etc., but I do know that they have also been engaging with AI to sort of improve certain processes, automate certain processes, and such. Our product team also has been exploring tools that they can roll out to the editorial for our workflow, because we're a digital first publication. So for things like tagging stories and like mundane tasks of building things in CMS, filling out certain things which humans can do, but possibly machines can do better. Because when we're adding tags, for instance, it happens so many times when I'm typing Infosys and I type Infos and hit enter, and now that tag is corrupt tag. So I feel like those kinds of things, I am aware that our product team is working on, and possibly in the next couple of months, it will be rolled out to editorial, and we will have more. I will have more visibility on that.
How do you use the same AI for that same? So you were discussing about how you have been using it for social media copies and all. So can you elaborate on that in about more about the school, how school is using the AI?
Thanks, Suraj. So again, there is no like at an organizational level, there is no AI policy that we have, and I'm not sure whether our social media team is using it. I'm sure at some extent, at an individual level, maybe our audience team, our social media team, they must be using it for creation of posts. Uh, Often there is communication between reporters and the social media team regarding how stories are to be packaged and presented on both Twitter and Instagram. So for that, when I am having a conversation with our audience team, I often use AI to provide me with ideas. For example, if we have to present a preview to the story in just 5 or 6 sentences that have to be like printed on these image cards that will be then put in an Instagram carousel, then I often use AI to help me figure out what such those sentences would be like, would be for my stories. Apart from that, in terms of other ways that I've seen our teams, different teams at Scroll use AI. I've seen our video team use AI greatly for coming out with the captions for videos. So transcribing for videos, both in the same language which is being spoken in the video as well as a different language. So if the speaker is speaking in Hindi, I've there are some AI tools which are quite good at translating and transcribing. And of course, all of this goes through a human review process before it is put in a video. And we also we used to have these short videos which provided previews for our stories with AI generated narration. And of course, with that, we would make it very clear that this is an AI generated like voice which is narrating this. So there is definitely scope for a lot more to be done with AI. I do think that, and we will. At Scroll, this is something that we will maybe have a conversation about and come out with a policy on this, just like Benayak and Itika have at their respective organizations soon.
Yes, Vinayak, the same.
No,
You
I think,
and
yeah, I would imagine that falls a lot in the domain of my digital colleagues, so I don't want to assume or presume what they do or don't do. I have noticed that they also use tools that generate SEOs and automatic summaries, but that's the most I'm at liberty to really say.
uh, we are running out of time, so I have two important questions. First is that one challenge that the journalism is facing is that 60-word news format that has emerged in last few years, and I think AI has helped it to boost. And there is a lot of platforms, they are just sending updates without in-depth information, just updates, facts, and data, nothing else. So my question is that how is platforms like Scroll, Desktop World, and uh, print media like Hindustan Times is dealing with such platforms? Are they also are they trying to becoming more familiar and pushing the same 60-word limit words, or they're trying to combat it with their some kind of other format?
I'm not sure, Suraj, why you hate 60 word news, because it saves a lot of time. So to answer your question, I understand you are referring to the fact that this sort of format where they just solely rely on AI and just peddle are able to peddle fake news or misinformation. I feel that travel can travel in any format, in video, in long form. Those kind of things can penetrate. Eventually, it relies on the wisdom of journalists, or these newsrooms, or like the ownership rests with the creators to sort of take responsibility and be honest and do the right journalism. um, yes, AI has aggravated the problem for sure, because even like the sources of misinformation used to take time to manufacture misinformation, or like I think Vinayak or we need someone mentioned deep fakes, which would have been like a talent that someone gained over time and is now just like a click away. I think I would look to policy, and not as in newsroom policies, but as like official state policies to catch up with this wave of AI. And I think that would be an effective step forward. Like, at least in our country, policy has always trailed behind technology. And I think that can be an effective tool to sort of combat this crisis. But beyond that, I feel like it's not to do with the 60 word fake news or a video fake news that is happening. It's very prevalent. Possibly just like the readers need to sort of identify the right source to go to news for, which I hope they will in time.
Um, if I could just jump in here, for our platform, I mean for our media, it's obviously very different print media. But one of the conversations that we are having because of the 60 word problem that you're referring to, it has more to do not with some news organization that we're thinking. This concised, bullet-sized thing. It actually has more to do with big tech companies because they are now like the search overviews, for instance, has become a huge problem. Just a few, I think a week back, Sundar Pichai at Google I/O mentioned that their search overviews are now getting 1.5 billion users. So potentially, if say half of these people were looking for news items, then they would have gotten the news through search overviews, which is a short summary of what the news is, and it wouldn't be going to a news website. So that really jeopardizes your like the digital business underpinnings. That's definitely a conversation that everyone is having in the news media, like whether it's print or digital. On and then we're like uh, especially fair. I know it's a little tangential to the point you were making, but it's sort of I'm just taking the opportunity to link it to the big tech issue that we are seeing here with AI summaries of news items, which they are not first people sources of.
Do you want to add something? Then we'll open question answer session.
Uh, I just want to say that scroll is not in the same like our audience is not the kind of audience which is looking to get news in only 60 words because of the fact that we are an organization that produces in-depth reports and analysis. Uh, like we are perhaps there are people uh, who are interested in scroll and the kind of reportage that we do for whom and in order to and those people maybe in order to get them to switch over to our side, our audience team does a good job of packaging our stories in 60 words or less on our social media platforms, and hopefully some of those people, once they come over and see our reports, they will get they'll see why it is important to sometimes go beyond 60 words, go like go in depth into a story in order to fully appreciate the nuances that it has to offer.
Thank you, everyone. We have got a few questions in our public chat. Okay, so the first one question that I wanted to ask, and someone put it here. So the question is from Navya. I also wanted to know about how AI is influencing the economic model of news media. Is there pressure to produce more content faster to meet the revenue goals, potentially compromising depth and quality? Anyone can answer that. Vinay?
Um, yeah, I think it's again linked to the point that I was making just before. It is, I don't know about the pressure to churn out more content because it just seems to be getting lost. Um, I think the biggest challenge we see from this AI boom is essentially how much control do we have on our own distribution? Because most of the interfacing that people do with information today is through intermediaries that are big tech companies. So this has been a problem that we had been facing ever since social media like boomed. At least then we had social. I mean, there the problem was that we had no control over the social media algorithms that led to the clicks that generated money for us. Now it's not even leading to clicks. So that is one of the economic implications that's being talked about the most.
Deepika?
I am not sure I am equipped to answer this question because I work for a non-profit organization. So, in that sense, the traditional description of revenue and etc. does not apply to me. Uh, I just probably go with what Binayak is saying because he seems to be the expert on that. This.
Thank you, Vinayak. Another question is from Darsana Vijaya. He's asking, I wonder what this will do to the labor and pay. As Vineet mentioned, AI is useful in making journalistic work more efficient. Journalists are expected to do much to a short amount of time for very little pay. Won't AI devalue journalistic work more or make this problem worse, especially at the fresher level?
So I think AI will. As I said, AI helps journalists with their productivity, right? So uh, the problem that Darsana has mentioned is that, which is true, that journalists are overworked in a country. They're expected to do a lot of work in a limited amount of time. So I have noticed that in terms of my own work, ever since I've started using AI tools, I have much more time to focus on things that are actually important to my work, such as ideation and reporting and talking to people and research. And the like menial time consuming tasks, they can be delegated to AI. Now, well, like in terms of how this will impact uh, compensation for journalists, I'm not sure I'm the best person to answer that. But in terms of productivity, I can definitely say that AI tools are a boon. And I believe that most of the journalists in Indian newsrooms have just begun to scratch the surface of that. And as we will also begin, there'll be progress in terms of AI tools that are available for journalists, we will continue to see more journalists take up these tools, and some of them will like get ahead of the curve and do better than others because of that.
I know we're at time, but to what Vineet said, and possibly like a great place to wrap up this conversation also is the fact that every time there is a new technology that comes in, there is this conversation of what it's going to do to labor. And we've seen many such cycles. When cloud came, the same conversation happened. When Web3 came, the same conversation happened, so on and so forth. I feel that at this moment, there is a quality and value to human intelligence that is irreplaceable. And whether journalists will continue to earn little or more, that time will tell. But I don't think that I mean, we will possibly evolve, like Vineet said, like possibly menial jobs will be done by AI and other by journalists. But this is not a new threat. We've been here before.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Vinayak.
Yeah, I think I'd probably agree with Vineet and Itika both. Suraj, if I don't know if you're going to ask another question, but in case you're going to, I'd wait for your question. But there's one interesting question in the audience members that I'd want to take later. So if you have something, please go ahead.
No, no, please, you can. Yes.
All right, so there's a question that the subject matter experts can detect the use of AI in credibility, and what do entry level professionals do? And this is something that in this newsroom, as we are trying to face this question of how to adopt it, this distinction is becoming extremely clear, and I think uh, one of the things that we would, or I personally would like to stress upon is that first principles of our profession is very important. If you're a reporter, just please know like the basics. If you're an editor, know what the inverted pyramid is. These are J school matters. And I realized as it's really like as soon as you start seeing it as a shortcut, it's a bit of a problem. It's more like a multiplier because if you're making mistakes, it's gonna multiply those mistakes. if you're very good at your job, then it's gonna multiply the efficiency that you need to have to do your job. So yeah, that's my over to you guys.
There is one question from Missy Chaudhary. Considering the extent of cannibalization by tech platforms of news and media, what are your thoughts about laws like Australia that charge these companies for news content?
Sorry, I'll just jump in and say that HT has authored editorial pieces backing that idea. It is only fair, I imagine, because you are like there are intellectual property and like whose labor it is that tech companies are profiting off of. So I know the Australia example hasn't really worked out really well. The whole spat between them and Murdoch companies and Facebook essentially sort of stopped showing news there. But yes, it's only fair that the people be compensated properly, and maybe there is a policy. I think the IT minister Ashwini Vaishnav has in the past indicated that they are having conversations on it. If nothing, these conversations, even if they don't lead to a law, we have seen that they help newsrooms or news unions um, negotiate better partnerships with tech companies.
Would you like to take this question?
Yeah, just to add to what Benayak said, I think this is perhaps one of the biggest issues facing journalism across the world, right? And if something is not done about it, be it in terms of what Australia is doing, which is charging these companies, which seems prima facie to be a fair solution, or something else, unless there is a solution figured out, it'll be very difficult for journalists, journalism as an industry to survive, because we are currently in a world where more and more news is being consumed on it's being consumed online, and I mean, two of us work at digital media outlets only. So this is a big threat, and some solution there will be there will have to be a reckoning in the future soon.
Thank you, Vineet. Thank you, Vinayak. There is one more question. Uh, this is from Vignesh. Vignesh is asking what changes or improvement you think is required in tech, AI tech, to help journalism, as well as what kind of AI policy would help journalism. Vinayak, please.
Yeah, that's a that's a tough one because it's I mean right now the fundamental of how at least LLMs work is that it's basically a statistical model that predicts what would come based on the words that you've given. So I guess there are efforts by people like OpenAI who have tied up with Bloomberg to create a model for themselves for Bloomberg to use, which is trained on Bloomberg data. So I would imagine these sort of tie-ups with by specialist tech companies with news companies on how to better ring fence certain protections when it comes to what is generated. That would be one of the ways this can help journalism.
Yeah, to the part about AI policy, I feel like we had this policy come out some time back with the influencers and creators where they have to tag an ad as an ad. I feel like transparency, any policy that promotes transparency in where an AI tool has been used to write something and must then be tagged to say that this was generated using AI, could go a long way in sort of, informing readers, empowering readers to decide what works for them, what they trust, and like, accordingly build trust. So any policy that goes towards transparency in establishing what is AI generated and what is not. Would be great.
Uh, to add to that, I think what kind of AI policy would help journalism is something that people who create AI and people who are journalists, they should come together and have conversations over these over this in order to like determine such policies. Such policies shouldn't be coming from bureaucrats or shouldn't be coming only from people who create AI without having discourse with journalists. Also, to build on the point that Itika mentioned about transparency, there should all one thing which sort of really gets my goat is that a lot of people on social media these days, they seem to rely more on grok and perplexity for fact checking as opposed to actual journalists, whereas what these tools do is they rely on journalists work in order to do fact checking, right? So I think one immediate policy solution would be for these AI tools to provide actual attribution to relying on for providing fact checks.
Thank you, Vinny. Thank you. And last question we have, I think we have already answered, but again, I'm just sharing. Okay, apart from the chat GPT, what are the other tools journalists or the newsmakers using inside the newsroom? Sorry, you are on mute, Ritika.
No, I was going to say Vineet is probably the best person to answer this because he, I'm sure, uses specialized tools. But in terms of my newsroom, we use Midjourney. We've experimented with Gemini. We've also experimented with some specific tools for journalists. But I think Vineet might be better placed to take this question.
Thanks, Ritika. I mean, so I primarily use three tools. I don't use ChatGPT at all. I think the paid version is quite good, but I haven't subscribed to that. I think among the free LLMs out there, probably Gemini is the best, and I don't use the standard Gemini, which is available. If you go to Google AI Studio, that allows you way more options in terms of like playing around with different settings, both in terms of the temperature or the kind, which is the creativity that the AI model employs. They also have different models of Gemini that you can use within the AI Studio. Apart from that, there is Notebook LM, which I'd mentioned, which is a specific tool that Google has created for researchers, where what you can do with Notebook LM is you can upload documents on it, and then it'll act as a research assistant purely by analyzing the contents of those documents. So again, a very useful tool, and very and with Notebook LM there is a very less possibility of hallucinations happening, because unlike standard LLMs which rely on like data that they've all kinds of data that they've been trained on, Notebook only relies on the documents that you've fed it, nothing else outside it. And there is also a tool that Google has come out with, which is called Pinpoint, which is specifically for journalists, that allows you to analyze data in large documents, and it can also help you with transcription. So that is my, and it provides free transcription services. So I think that is a tool that I always use for transcription, and it combines the transcription services with AI. So for example, if there is an interview in Hindi, I can get its transcript, and then I can automatically translate it into English, and then get insights out of it. So these are three tools which
Yeah.
I always use.
Pinpoint is great. I'm glad you someone else is also using it. We're also using Pinpoint. The data team here uses Pinpoint a lot. We used it for going through electoral bond affidavits and digitizing it. It seemed to do a fairly accurate job. Of course, you need to verify it. Transcription again, Pinpoint, and this paid tool called Otter.ai. And for general chatbot, and this is the one we use most commonly, it's the paid tool for Claude, which seems to be a little less hallucinating than ChatGPT, but I guess we've just been used to it for longer.
Thank you, Vinayak, Ritika, and Vinny, and thank you all. for sharing from your experience on how journalism is evolving in the age of AI. It's clear that while AI brings some undeniable efficiencies, it is clear that the human touch and journalism relies cannot be done away with. I hope this conversation is one of the among many conversations shaping the new journalistic landscape, which is hopefully transparent in the nature. Now, I would like to close this session and would request our all the participants. We are going to have our last session in our this AI in conversation along week event. Our last session will be on AI and environment. How is AI costing to the environment? By Donna Matthew, researcher at Digital Future Lab. Please join us tomorrow at 6 p.m. again. Thank you everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Suraj. Thank you, everybody. Thank you,
Thank
Vineet.
you,
Thanks a
Vinay.
lot.
Thank you,
Thanks a lot.
Vinay.